Surprise, this isn't Godless Cranium, but I'd like to thank him for graciously offering me a guest spot on his channel.
Hey, want to have a discussion about the existence of God?
Sure.
Well, I believe that God exists. How about you?
No, I'm an atheist.
Oh, so you believe that there's absolutely no God?
No, I just don't have a belief in the existence of a God.
Oh, so you're agnostic then?
Well, I'm an agnostic atheist.
Wait a minute. If you lack belief as an agnostic, you can't also have belief that there's no God.
No, an agnostic doesn't know if God exists or not. Atheism is a lack of belief.
No, look!
No, look.
If you're watching this video, I'd venture a guess that it's quite likely you've either witnessed or been a part of such an exchange. As illustrated, the intended topic just becomes eclipsed and buried by the petty semantical arguments when this happens. So let's look into this matter and see if we can't find a solution once and for all. And hopefully non-violently, unlike these guys. So let's start with the etymology of the word agnostic. 1870. One who professes that the existence of a first cause and the essential nature of things are not and cannot be known. As we can see, this word is formed from the Greek prefix a, which means not or without, and the root word gnostos, which means to know or to be known. So as we can see, this word was originally intended not to express a position of personal belief about the existence of God, but rather about the general availability of said knowledge to mankind. So this means that an agnostic holds the belief that no one can know the truth of this matter. So there, we've figured out the truth of the matter and we can move on. Nope. Unfortunately, the origin and original meaning of a word doesn't dictate its modern usage. Arguing otherwise would constitute a logical fallacy known as the etymological fallacy. Overall, it's not the dictionaries that determine the meaning of words. It's the popular usage of words that determine their meaning and how they're recorded in the dictionary. Sure, it'd be nice to have some objective standard for language, but that's not how it works in reality, unfortunately. Language evolves and changes over time, and especially in isolated populations, despite our efforts to maintain a consistent standard of communication. This is how linguistic atrocities, such as seeing a figurative definition of the word literally edging its way into the dictionaries in accordance with popular use. Feel free to tell me how this is literally killing you in the comments. Okay, so let's move on to some modern definitions of this word. Merriam-Webster defines agnostic as a person who holds the view that any ultimate reality, such as God, is unknown and probably unknowable. Broadly, one who is not committed to believing in either the existence or the non-existence of God or a God. So interestingly, we have two different definitions here. The first one seems to match our previous etymological definition quite nicely, but the second one, which is commonly encountered, describes a personal position of belief on the matter of the existence of God. Now, Merriam-Webster is a U.S. dictionary, and in addition to the local popular uses of a word, biases actually have an effect too. If the authors of the dictionary prefer and regard certain definitions of a word to be more correct, those ones will be printed in the dictionary more readily than the others. They include a little more information and background on this word, so let's take a look at that. It reads, many people are interested in distinguishing between the word agnostic and atheist. The difference is quite simple. Atheist refers to someone who believes that there is no God or gods, and agnostic refers to someone who doesn't know whether there is a God, or even if such a thing is knowable. The distinction can be troublesome to remember, but examining the origins of the two words can help. As we can see, they portray atheism as a positive belief, rather than a lack of belief. This leads to some internal contradictions with the Merriam-Webster dictionary. However, this is outside the purview of this topic. Alright, so let's keep in mind these two definitions we have and move on over to see what the Oxford people have to say on it. A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God. So this definition is reminiscent of our historical definition, except for the specification of God, whereas the historical notion just refers to first cause in general. So unlike Webster with its two definitions, Oxford seems a little more straightforward with its single definition. Well, that's pretty easy. Wait a minute. The Oxford Dictionary depicts the usage in the UK. Let's see what it has to say on the usage in the US. Well, isn't this interesting? It's exactly like the previous definition, but it's got a little bit more tact on the end of it. Or of anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So the different definitions of this word in different countries is making a little more sense in terms of the evolution of language. Let's have a slightly deeper look by looking into an encyclopedia, which contains much more comprehensive information than the abridged meanings given in dictionaries. Looking at the Encyclopedia Britannica, we can see that the definition of agnosticism, strictly speaking, reflects what we've been seeing about the unavailability of knowledge. There's a ton of information in here, and I'm not about to read you an entire encyclopedia article. But I do encourage you to look through. It's got a lot of interesting information about the various aspects of this word and concept. But I am going to read out one important paragraph. Agnosticism in its primary reference is commonly contrasted with atheism thus, quote, "The atheist asserts that there is no God, whereas the agnostic maintains only that he does not know," close quote. The distinction, however, is in two respects misleading. First, Huxley himself certainly rejected as outright false, rather than as not known to be true or false, many widely popular beliefs about God, his providence, and man's posthumous destiny. And second, if this were the crucial distinction, agnosticism would for almost all practical purposes be the same as atheism. It was indeed on this misunderstanding that Huxley and his associates were attacked both by enthusiastic Christian polemicists and by Friedrich Engels, the co-worker of Karl Marx, as shamefaced atheists, a description that is perfectly applicable to many of those who nowadays adopt the more comfortable label. Alright, so that's enough messing around in books. Let's look at this logically. So we can pretty soundly argue that agnosticism pertains to knowledge and not belief. This is based both on the strong references we've found and on the grammatical structure of the word, again with the prefix a meaning not or without, and the root word gnostis meaning knowledge. So without knowledge. Let's suppose here that agnostic pertains to an individual's position of knowledge, rather than their position on the availability of knowledge. Now let's take a sharp turn into philosophy, namely epistemology. So off the top of your head, you could probably know that belief and knowledge are different things, but can you articulate how this distinction is made? Welcome to one of the age-old questions in philosophy. So thankfully, we don't have to delve into the swampy muck of this issue. That distinction exists in some capacity, and that's all we need. Now let's quickly evaluate the relationship between these two terms. We do know that one can hold belief in something without knowing it to be true, however you define knowledge. We also know that if you know something to be true, you must also believe that thing to be true. That's a requirement in order to accept something as knowledge. As such, we can determine that knowledge is a subset of belief, as demonstrated by this Venn diagram. Let's now expand this diagram so we can map out the potential positions that an individual can have based on their positions about belief and knowledge in God's existence. It should be pretty obvious that one can't believe God exists and believe he doesn't exist at the same time, and this is also true of knowledge. So this means we can determine that the intersection between these two giant spheres is impossible and we can eliminate it. As you can see, we have 4 distinct positions left, each of which respectively is agnostic theist, Gnostic theist, agnostic atheist, and Gnostic atheist. Each of these positions is wholly valid, but please keep in mind that this diagram is a little oversimplistic, specifically in the depiction of atheism. That's an extension of this topic that would take a lot of time and effort to get into. And since Godless Cranium is charging an arm and a leg for every minute on his channel, I think I'm going to stop it here. But I certainly plan on continuing this in a future video over on my channel. Alright, I'll shut up now. I want to thank Godless Cranium again for allowing me a guest spot in this channel, and I hope you found this video worthwhile. Thank you, and please comment.